Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review. We are recording live on Sunday, the 15th of June, after completion of round 14, or as you could also say, this season has been shithouse. So that can probably give a bit of an indication of how I'm going. But I'm your host, Bells, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. We've got a bit of a theme tonight. We've got a bit of a South Australian affair tonight. We've got three people from SA, so should be some good fun. But joining is my fellow co-host, AFL Fantasy Fanatic from SA. It is a good mate, Jordy DeSena. Jordy, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. Good to be back. Yeah, I was away on a train for a week and a bit. So
How was it, mate? How was it? Let listeners know how it was. You were gone for a week and playing a bit of music, I hear.
Yep. So I left last Thursday, I think it was. Went to Perth and Sydney and on a train and just did a bit of music, acoustic stuff every day, which was super fun. Trying to keep up with the fantasy scores. The service wasn't great across the Nullarbor, so I think Bales were trying to get a hold of me, and I just wasn't getting through. But luckily, didn't really. That was last week. Didn't affect the trades, and got back Thursday. I was able to do the trades. Although, shout out to Bales. Got in at, I think it was 5 p.m. on Thursday, and I called Bales and I said, "Mate, how's the week looking?" And he's like, "I reckon trade in Matt Kennedy." So I did, and it was looking good, but 107. So thanks, Bales. But we'll take that for a trade in.
I'm glad I can help everybody else except myself. That's oh, mate. If people can sense I'm laughing because if I don't, I'll start crying. But joining us is a very special guest. First time this season. We've had him since the Head series, so good to have him on. You know him as the host of the HatChat podcast. It is good friend Jake, coach of Dunkley's Donuts. Mate, how are you?
Oh, mate, I feel your pain. I have absolutely been better. The League One group chat, the HatChat League One group chat yesterday told me I was on for an absolute blinder. And I didn't think today went that badly, but I lost 1,000 ranks. A bit of pre-round carnage is probably where the frustration came in today. Anyone that was in my side from last week balled out. Everything else just kind of fell a little bit flat. But hey, mate, we got to get on these calls. We talk about the good, we talk about the bad, and hopefully there's a few people out there that take the things that we have to say and do some good with them, whether that's with a hat, a car, or at least a league win to put their name to.
Exactly right, mate. But obviously, you sort of alluded to it there, mate. We'll go through our weeks. We'll start with you, Jake, being the guest. How did your week go? What was your score, your round rank, and your overall rank? What's that looking like?
Yeah, so it's a 1971 in the end. I had an 1820 something yesterday with 4 to play. So with a couple of 24s and a 39, I thought the final round score was going to be a little bit better than that. But a pretty quiet Sunday for all reports. A 24K round rank is certainly not what you want to see. And after going from 4,700 to 3,700 last week, I'm right back to 4,700. So holding on to top 5K. I haven't finished outside top 5K in 6 or 7 years, but I'm a bit close for my liking, to be entirely honest.
Yeah. No. It's sure you'll bounce back, mate. Jordy, mate, how did your week go? What was your score, round rank, and overall rank?
Yeah, I did all right. I got 2,100 exactly. Round rank is 2,928, and my overall is 176. So I went up 40 spots. Didn't do too bad. I think Bont getting that 50 Thursday night, I was like, I better get a 19th guy who I think can go over 80 plus. So that was McKercher, who I got. But it probably didn't actually need to. I didn't actually need to do that because we got Zach Johnson going 104 and McCarthy going 101. So they sort of saved us. So I didn't actually need to do that trade. But anyways, happy with the week.
Yeah. Me, 1997, round rank, 18,738, moved down about 230 spots. Move on to plus and minus 3. Jake, who do you give it to this week?
+3 from me is actually Max Holmes. Another banging week, but more importantly for me, I put the C on him. I did allude to it on Wednesday night Spaces. DC and I both had that flag, and we both did it. So obviously, most people going Baz ended up a few points better off. But looking at my team, he was probably the second best option, equal with Shees. So great result there. Really happy. And I got to probably give my my -3 to a man Jordy just mentioned. You know, the captain of my football club, the Bont, just didn't start the round off well. The additional premium theoretically would have been great, especially with the Sam Walsh news. That's probably the one that's really stuffed my whole round out. I ended up with one less premium, and that probably made all the difference. So it could have gone to Sam Walsh, but I hate giving it to injured players. So a bit of a rocket to the Bont.
Yeah. Jordy, your +/-3?
I'll give the +3 to Matt Kennedy, as we said before. As I mentioned before, I think he was on 30 at half time, and to come with a 1, I thought, oh, here we go. I've paid up again for this guy, and and to come out with 107. I think 2 goals last quarter, 46 points. I'll give him the +3 for saving it, and definitely looking like a top 6 for us. The -3 is hard because Bont was clearly my lowest one, but Jake has given him that. All the other ones were sort of the rookies, but the next lowest was Rankin for 81, which seems a bit harsh to give it to him, but he's the lowest guy. Actually, let's do Christian Petrarca. I think, Bowers, you might have mentioned him. 81, you've texted me today. 81, I think, maybe just would have been nicer to get a little bit more than that. Though him and Rankin were my lowest, were my 18th, basically. So, yeah.
My plus and -3. I've got to give my +3 to Zach Johnson. Bringing him in, certainly didn't expect him. I thought he was my bottom 4. But after Bont put up that awful score, I thought, well, I need someone to stand up. And Zach Johnson said, Bales, I've got your back. You've had a shit year, but I can help you out this week and help out the other pill that traded him in. And he just did just that. 104 points. He was fantastic. So he gets my +3. Bont would have got my -3 as well. And probably Jake saved me from going on a rant about the Bont. Taser can certainly attest to my angry messages on Thursday night. Certainly saying that was absolutely pathetic from Bont. But I'll give my -3 to my 18th scorer. I don't know why I've got this guy on my team. Shea Bolton, just 59. I know the weather wasn't great, but still 59 points against North Melbourne. I would have thought a couple extra goals and a mark or tackle wouldn't have gone astray, but he thought, I'll get 0 marks and 1 tackle. So he was absolutely pathetic.
When you said, I don't know why I've got this guy on my team, I thought you were going to tell the listeners you somehow brought Sam Taylor back in.
I might have to just to sort of just sum up the year, because Sam Taylor has certainly not been the worst guy on my team. That's for sure. That's showing how bad I've gone. But we'll go to the Content Creators Cup, obviously proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth. And shocker, I lose again. 8 points to Fry, who was bottom. So he now overtakes me. I'm now sitting at the bottom of the well. Can't dig too much more of a hole when you're right at the bottom. But then we've also got Jordox, unfortunately, another tough week. He went down to fellow HatChat Assange, who had a pretty good week there with a 2069. Guesty went down. He cracked the 2002, but unfortunately, Harmy got him there with a 2035. And then Jaiden, who unfortunately was up against Jake. And I know Jake has complained for a long time about the fixturing in the Content Creators Cup. And I think this is certainly can attest to that, because Jaiden was the top scorer of the round out of all the content creators with 21-37. So, Jake, mate, I feel your pain.
I've been saying it for a long time, Bales. I appreciate you bringing me on this show so I could flag it. And the crazy part with that, right, is I looked at his team. We had 13 uniques, a crazy number of uniques for a Content Creators Cup matchup. And he had guys like Green and Merritt and Saligo who didn't score particularly well. So how has he put up a 21-37 is what I want to ask at the end of the day. He has done absolutely crazy things. I guess a few uniques that did go particularly well, including holding Jason Horne-Francis, who ended up with that disgusting 112 only to still be injured at the end of the game. So well done to J-Pop.
Yeah. A few other coaches went over 2,000. So Nathan, a good week with a 2058. We mentioned Sanchez. Louis had a 2039 as well. And then Lemon was second there with the 2127. He was obviously good once again. Holmesy with a 2046, and Fry obviously, just ticked over the 2000 with a 2005. In terms of the overall leaderboard, Louis just slipped a tiny bit, so he's 132nd. I think Holmesy might have slipped slightly as well, but he's still 172. Then you got Lemons move right back into 267. He just continues to get it done every single year. Nathan is fourth overall in the overall rankings there, 632. So they're the 4 in the top 1,000. Then you've got MJ, DC, and Jeppo pretty close together there, just outside the top 1,000. Then you've got Minimunk and Sanch there are inside the top 3,000 there. So at least I'm not the only coach. Well, I'm not in the below 10,000. And there's another 3 coaches are. So I'm at least not bottom for something. So there we go. That's at least a slight positive there. But we will move over to the games, and we'll start back on Thursday night, which was the Points Fest. St Kilda and the Doggies getting the job done by 72 points, and Jake would have been happy because a lot of Doggies were certainly able to feast here. We had Bailey Williams, would have helped a lot of draft coaches out with 133, 17 marks, if you don't mind there. Bailey Dale, massive score, 127. Libba with a 121. English, 120. Sam Darcy, good to see him back, 115. Richards, 109. And Kennedy, 107. Also there with a Riley Sanders ton as well. But Jay, obviously Bailey Dale was the one that a few people looked at last week with the Saints matchup. And to my dismay, watching Bont being tagged within an inch of his life, even when they're sending points down, and Bailey Dale doing whatever he wanted. He's now got Richmond this week. What do you think about him as a potential trade? I think he'll be over $1 million if I'm not mistaken, though. So he's a bit expensive. What do you reckon about bringing him in?
Oh, I think last week was the week, to be entirely honest. The matchup was always nice. When we were talking on Wednesday night spaces, I did flag that if I was comparing him, the Wang, and Sinclair, I actually would have had Dale as the number 1 target. Obviously, the Wang ends up beating him by a point, which, considering the Dogs aren't the easiest matchup, is only more stocks for him. But yeah, I think Dale's a bit too expensive for my liking. I think there's a few value guys in that defender line. Now you've missed this clear pop score opportunity. Yeah, it was an interesting game. I think I said I was considering VCing Rowan Marshall. Ended up chucking it on the Bont, which was a pretty disaster watch. But I guess at the end of the day, with the home C, that saved me a little bit. But Romar looking good again and putting up a score matching Max Gordon was definitely one of my highlights in a game that I don't think I was in doubt of the result. I think after quarter time, I kind of stopped watching thoroughly. I felt pretty safe that the boys were going to get the win there. So sorry to the Saints fans out, but no, it was good to see the boys back in full flight.
Well, clearly Ross Lyons thought they were still in the game because he didn't let that tag up from Bont until the final siren. Couldn't believe that. And Bont sort of just went around. I think Bevo might have even just said to him, mate, don't have to worry about it. He's going to tag you, but we got this in the bag. We got all the other guys going there, which is a shame because it would have been good for some extra points. But yeah, unfortunate there. But you did mention, Jake, about Rowan Marshall. Jordy, Rowan Marshall, 129. I think the question of the week for a lot of coaches, Max Gawn obviously put up another big score, but with the price difference gone on by, gone to Marshall. What do you think?
I know. It's going to be a big one. I think I was looking at this. I don't know. I mean, it hasn't been lockout yet, so I don't know the prices. But before I was looking at the pricing projector, and I think it was banking maybe 166K, I think. I'd have to check that once it is lockout. But yeah, I think if you haven't got creative ways with your team value, I think you could definitely look at it. I was definitely going to sort of locked in to do it, but then, Gawn went 126 today. And if you look at he hasn't gone below 95 since round 4. So I'm now not sure about doing it. I think if I can still get my upgrade with my bench, I might look to hold Gawn, but I think you could definitely do it if you think Marshall can be within Gawn. So I think it's going to be a big, as you said, big topic this week. If you need the cash, then I think you might be forced to do it.
Yeah, Gawn's had 10 tons in a row, and there's only one of those tons, only one of them has gone below 113, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Just gets it done every single week. And Jake, I'll ask you about this as well. What are your thoughts on this potential trade? Because obviously Gawn's killing it, but we do know that his run does get a bit tricky. He goes Witts, O'Brien, Cherry in back-to-back weeks, and it gets a little bit easier for a few weeks after that, whereas you compare it to like a Rowan Marshall, who obviously he's had his bye, looked good, obviously, with that preseason, so the injury slowing him up for a lot of the season. But he goes Darcy Cameron, the Freo duo, Meek, Grundy, Geelong, whoever the ruck will be at that point, if it's Stanley, and then goes into Gawn and Cherry. So it's a decent enough run. What do you think about pulling the trigger for the trade?
Yeah, look, I'm a big believer in not trading the guys that are top of their line. We talked about it with Tristan Cherry last year. I was so far in the hold camp, it wasn't funny. And people that traded him, it started to hurt. So I'm very much a hold
Thank you to
kind of
Jordy.
character. Yeah, well, exactly right. Not that I predicted things to play out the same way that they did, but yeah, I wouldn't be. I mean, there's always exceptions. If you're really heavy for round 15 for whatever reason, you've got 5 on the buy and the other 4 you also think are top of their line, you start going, okay, well, I've got to move one of them on, and at least this one I can make a massive price decrease with a potential more valuable, more value play, I should say. But I don't like it. I think there's only a handful of circumstances I'd be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably in the camp of not doing it just at the moment, just because the way Gawn's looking, like he's dominating every week, and he's now got the week off to freshen up. I think last year he got an injury, I think a couple of weeks before his bye, and that probably carried through a bit, and that's why he slowed down. But this year he's just getting it done week after week, and I just think that if you've got, I think a lot of Gawn owners probably went to a Madden, and you've got Madden to cover you for a week. Okay, might not score great, but you've got someone as cover there, and if you're up the ranks because of Gawn, I think there's a chance if you trade Gawn, you might not be able to get him back, and he might just keep pumping out these massive scores. So I'm probably in the hole, but maybe if he pops the badge post by, you can maybe go down.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I've got Luke Jackson could be an option who could cover Gawn. So I could use him this week. So that's another reason why I might not do it.
Yeah. So I'm probably holding at this stage, but if your team value's in a bad spot and you've got no one on your bench to downgrade, and that's the only way you can get a rookie up or a mid-pricer up, then you could consider it, but I'm probably on the camp of holding. Just quick couple of players before we move to the next game. Obviously, Nasai Wanganeen-Miller, he's just an absolute joy to watch. I sort of wonder when someone's actually going to stand near him, but at the same time, I think, well, he's just so quick and just moves around so much that it's going to be quite tricky for someone to go with him. So 128, though, he was great. I believe they've got Carlton in a couple of weeks, so I wonder if Chincotta tries to go with him at some point, but we'll see. But he's just an absolute gun. Sinclair as well with a 106. Jack still turned up there with a 105. McRae, a little bit quiet on return, but 82, he'll be someone I guess we'll be looking at some point. Davidson as well got a 76 for anyone that still had him in their team. And obviously we mentioned Bont with a bad score, and a few rookies in like a Travalia, Keeler, Max Hall putting up some pretty bad scores, but hopefully they wouldn't have been counting to your best 18 anyway. But moving over to Friday night, I took a half an hour mental break after this game. Hawthorn and Adelaide. Hawthorn by 3 points. And the crazy stat is the last 3 games in Tassie, Hawthorn by 3 points, Adelaide by 3 points, Hawthorn by 3 points. Don't know if I've ever seen that before, but they like playing down in Tassie in these close games. But Dylan Moore, Jordy, 122, looked a lot more like the Dylan Moore that we know and love having in our fantasy teams. He's on the bye this week, but what do you think about him as a post-bye, I guess, final upgrade, if you will still be in the 700s?
Yeah, I mean, his last few weeks he's been real good. Was there a bit of talk that he had hamstring tightness or something come out from the club? Yeah, so you'd hope that the bye helps him and he's okay and it's not a proper hammy. Did have the 13 tackles, and obviously, the weather and I guess, in Tassie there and that game style obviously helps, but he has been great the last few weeks. I think, to be honest, like my team, I've got 21 guys that can go over 80 plus. There's a 22nd guy that I need to get up. I've got an Angus Clark, a Kyle Lohman, these sort of types. And I might not have enough money to go up to someone decent. I might only have about 700K. So if the best is you can get to more, just to get you through a couple of weeks after the bye, I think it's a decent play. There's probably some other guys we can talk about, like a Callum Mills I might look at this week. He's in that sort of price range. And that might be the best that I'm going to be getting. So I don't mind Dylan Moore if you do need to get someone in that range just for a few weeks off the bye into best 22, get the rookies off the field. Although, McCarthy and Johnson just come out and ton. So who knows, maybe it is okay to run one of those on field. But yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, it could even be a case of like someone that hasn't got much cash in. I might even just upgrade these mid-pricer guys that just have one rookie on the field and loop between Johnson and McCarthy moving forward, to be honest, if they can put up another good score or two before the end of the buys. what do we got here? John Dawson, 97. Probably slightly unders. Had a pretty good start of the game, but was fairly quiet after that. Roy Laird just does what Roy Laird does, just 94, just kind of consistent. I might even just bring him in because my season's that much in the shit. I just want to enjoy fantasy, and Lairdy certainly will make me enjoy fantasy a whole lot more. But Jake, Isaac Rankin, 81. He looked a bit better in this game, kicked a pretty nice goal late as well, but 81 again, just not quite enough. But then again, besides those top three forwards, not many forwards are getting it done. Isaac Rankin on bye this week. Richmond, Melbourne post-bye, trade or spade?
No, I am spading him. First of all, I've got worse things. I think he looked better, passed the eye test. Really low-scoring fantasy game. What was it? 3 tons, and one was an even ton potentially from memory.
Yeah, keys, yeah.
I don't sit there and I go, "Oh, look at all of these raving scores." I don't think he's going to be close to the top 3, top 4, but I think he's definitely going to be in the top 10 forwards. So, in a similar answer to Gorn, if you've got 5 on the buy, you've got to trade a premium. I can get around a trade, but for me, I think I've got 3. He's going to be a spade for mine.
Yeah, I'm spading as well. The Richmond matchup in Melbourne post-buy as well was adding to that. But as you say, Jake, the fact that those forwards, besides those top 3, they're all scoring 80s anyway. Like we saw, like I looked at Petrarca's numbers again. We'll chat about him later, but he's had 1 ton in his last 6 weeks or something like that, and that was like a 104. And I know they've been tough matchups, but just these forwards, besides the top 3, just not getting it done. And also the fact that if this was Rankin 4 weeks ago and he was 930K, I'd say, yep, you can trade him, you can make some cash. But the fact that he's going to be 830, there's no value there anymore. You're essentially trading him at his lowest point. So I'm spading with those good matchups there, unless you had too many on the buy, or you had 7 forwards or something like that, and you needed to trade 1. Then it's like, well, then fair enough. Sam Butler got it done again, 77. He's going to be someone that is 400K, but maybe people might look to go after. The buys could be tight, a little bit more expensive, but people need cash gen forward guy. Maybe he is an option there. Aim on with a 74, bit of a lower score there. John Newcomb copped the Sam Berry tag and only got the 61. And yeah, Berry himself only got the 58. So some low scores there. And yeah, you also seen Seamus Mitchell got a 33, and then Huswaite with a 15. Anyone still had him there. Moving over to the Saturday games, and Brisbane and GWS, and Giants just love playing Brisbane at the Gabba. They've beaten them again, 11 points. Some big scores here. Aaron Cadman, I think everyone said around everywhere, if you got him in draft, fantastic. I think this is the game that maybe is a breakout game that he needed. 5 goals, a great performance. And Jesse Hogan as well with 6 goals and 116. But Dane Zorko copped a Bedford tag at times throughout this game and still got himself to a 114. Great score. Your boy Jordy, Lockie Ash, another 112. This guy doesn't score really much else other than 110s. He just keeps getting it done.
How about the messages, Bales, during the day?
Oh. Yeah, that's only because Fry had him. No offense to Fry, but anyone that Fry had, I was just saying, in the group chats, just piss off to player X, whoever Fry had. And Ash
and Jake, I was just going, Ashy.
I was going to say, I resent
not happy.
I resent him being Jordy's boy as a proud round 0 owner myself. But as the guest, I'm more than happy to give that to you, Jordy. But it's been a great year to watch, I can tell you what.
Although, I mean, great. The next guy, I'm sure Bowles will talk about it, but his kick-ins had a bit of an effect, Ash. You get someone else go back there.
Oh, yeah, Lockie Whitfield, 12 kick-ins, played full-time off half-back, again, back to the role that we know and love, 111. I think there's probably not really much more to say other than he's got the bye round 16. He's a prime upgrade target in round 17 onwards. He's going to be a bit cheaper than what we normally have, and he's a top 3 defender when he's playing in this role. So he's someone that we're definitely going to be targeting post his bye. And then other than that, a lot of sort of underwhelming scores here. So like McCluggage was all right with a 91. Tom Green with a 78. Again, 2 marks, 1 tackle. That's just not going to cut it for top 8 mid, unfortunately. Well, actually, maybe this year it might, because all the mids, besides a few, aren't going too great. Josh Dunkley with a 75. I'll be remiss if I didn't ask Dunkley's Donuts this question, but is he a trade?
Oh, he's getting far too close for my liking. You know, I don't like making trades here either, but what is he? I think he's gone a lower score week on week on week for 7 weeks in a row or something. He just isn't finding a way to turn it around, and I don't know why. There's no obvious change there. the price, I think you just got to keep holding. I don't think you can make the trade, but far out. I'd love to hear from a Brisbane fan if they think there's something different there, if he's not 100%, because I just can't understand why he's going backwards at a rate of knots.
I think Will Ashcroft is playing a pretty big role. I know he wasn't great here, but I think him getting a lot more responsibility now. I think the emergence of McCluggage, like we know McCluggage is a great player, right? But he's gone to another level this year. But then it's like Lachie Neale's taken a step back as well. So it's almost like the whole Brisbane midfield are just not scoring fantasy points at the moment. They're all like McCluggage is the best one out of all of them at the moment, and they're all sort of up and down a little bit. So it's a tricky one. They did have a very good run to start the year, and they've had a tougher run late, and then they've have put up some low scores. So yeah, he'd be someone that you'd he's the sort of guy you trade out. He just goes bang and goes a 120, right? But if you're really heavy on that round 16 buy, which I know for a few coaches is a bit of a worry, that might tip you over to, yep, I'm trading him. So
it's just crazy
very
to
interesting
think
one there.
up till round 10, every score since round 10 has been lower than every score he put up for the first 10 weeks. It's just a really interesting one. I don't know if it's a game style shift or if it is purely a matchup one, but he's much better than where he's at, and he's clearly at the lowest he's been for a few years. So if you think he's fit, you hold. I think if you think there's something more to it, you could maybe try and get a jump.
Yeah, and maybe if you're heavy on round 16, so maybe you hold for one more, and then maybe the round 16, if you're heavy on it, like if you've got lots of guys, maybe, we've got so many trades, maybe you just sideways him. I know he's going down in value, but if you need numbers, maybe he's the man. And some people might think about that with Tom Green as well. He only got 78. Could you trade those, if you need to, so sideways, these sort of guys?
Yeah, I think if you're heavy on the buy, I think you can definitely consider it. I know we always say don't trade your primos, but this is a year where a lot of primos are very, very up and down. Like I don't think I've ever seen such a discrepancy from like the top 1 or 2 players in fantasy compared to like the 11th or 12th best player. Like you've got Baz Smith is clearly the number 1 player. Gawn is the number 2. And then like Dawson's been a little bit up and down of late, but he's still pretty solid. But other than those like 3 guys, everyone else is just up and down, putting up average scores. And I know that like Whitfield will probably be better now, and a few other guys will be better because they've had role change, but they might be back in the same role. But it's been a very up and down year for those some of those primos up the top. Harry Ralston with a 75 was pretty good. He's got a buy in round 16, makes it tricky to bring him in, especially when we've got Zach Johnson, who obviously is a little bit more expensive, but just put up a ton, and then also McCarthy, who's on buy, but then you might even bring him in over a Ralston just because I think he's got the sub vest all over him. Just a shame that he's got the round 16 buy. Yeah,
just with Ralston, he was tagging Neale, and he had 20 CBAs. So I don't know whether that's he's a new tagger now. Bedford, he said maybe did a job on Zorko, so maybe that left a role in the midfield. So they said, okay, let's use Ralston. So one to watch.
Yeah. Will Ashcroft, 61. He's probably someone I'd be slightly fine with trading over a couple of these guys, just because I don't think he will be a top 8. I know he's been pretty good with getting tons, but I think he's someone that will probably average about that 95. So he's someone I'm happy to trade, but I guess he's probably in the same boat as a few of those other ones there as well. Nick Madden scored a 47. Just had the 60% game time there. I wonder if they just bring Briggs back in post-buy, just because they aren't really playing him a huge amount, but he's obviously a pretty young ruck and playing his first couple of games. O'Halloran, if you've got him, he's someone that I've got to go. 45 again, another poor score. And Levi Ashcroft, 39, obviously his worst score of the season. If he did hold on to him, he's got to go. He's now bleeding cash, and just sort of not making up for. He's just undoing all his good work, unfortunately. And then Kyle Lohman as well with a 24 with the sub. Jake.
I was just going to say, Levi Ashcroft, he was gone all week. He was the first man out. And then the Sam Walsh news, I went, well, do I play 21 or do I play 22? So I ended up trading Sam Walsh and holding Levi for a week. So instead, now I'm going to trade him this week 60K cheaper. So absolutely frustrating one. Didn't even look like scoring in my best 22 anyway. So, it's always good in hindsight, but never planned it on hold. But here we are, another round with Levi on my side.
Yeah, and Kyle Oman as well. I saw on Friday. I didn't think there was much chance he was going to get the sub. I thought he was a forward and was going to play him. They've got to get games in him because he's been just injury after injury this year, and he was sub. But obviously, unfortunately, Jack Payne went down with a pretty bad knee injury. I think ruptured patella tendon, so that sucks for him. He's out for the remainder of the year. And as a few people in the group chats that I've seen, one of those guys, the good guys, that unfortunately has gone down with a season-ending injury. But Kyle Oman came on at quarter time. Did not matter. 24 points in 3 quarters is just not good enough. And his cash gen is now completely stalled because of that low score. And unfortunately, the other sub out for Giants, Brent Daniels, who I know DC was pretty big on. I actually liked the pick as well. I was looking at that post buy, but he's probably going to be a guy we're going to be looking at in like 5 weeks, depending on what I don't know what his injury was, but he's going to be so cheap. He's going to be like 500K probably. So something to look at. But another injury, unfortunately, for Brent Daniels. Moving to the Twilight game, probably the final game before Jordy's got to head off as well, is the Essendon and Geelong game, with Geelong getting the job done by 95 points. And some respect on Will Setterfield. He's just another guy that's just getting it done. Another 138. He was fantastic. Played a bit on the next high scorer, which was Baz Smith, 41 disposals, and came on with, like, I think, few minutes. He came off, then came back on just to get those final couple of touches, and then he got that 136. He was fantastic. Max Holmes again, 131, just getting it done. One of my better trade-ins of the season, bringing him in about a month ago. He's been fantastic since. But Jai Caldwell, Jordy, I messaged you this. I said that I should have got him, 3 weeks ago instead of Chad Warner. And I thought, I'll get Chad Warner for the buys. Just shows sometimes that the pre-buys, the buy structure doesn't always mean you're getting the better player, because Caldwell's absolutely dominating at the moment.
Definitely. I think he's, looking pretty much locked in at the moment for a top 8 mid. His time on ground is up. I think they, obviously eased him in, but 76%. High CBAs, the second guy. So obviously Setterfield was number 1 and Caldwell was the second CBA banana, as they call it. So he's got the role. He's looking great. 10 tackles. Yeah, I think we might have to put him in the rolling 22, I think, if he's not already in there.
Yeah, you're saying he's almost a lock for top 8. I've almost got him as near a lock for top 4 mid, because these other mid, the second best mid pre-round was Andrew Brayshaw with a 104.8, and Jai Caldwell was averaging well over that when he's got this role. So he's arguably right up there with some of the better players in the comps in terms of fantasy. So he's just a gun, and I think we're going to need him. So he's got Rich around 17 as well. So I'm hoping to go up too much, but he's going to be too expensive. So, but I know Jordy's got to head off because he's got a pretty late gig tonight, which is interesting. But mate, thanks for jumping on with us for the first half, mate. Where can the people find you across the socials?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, got another gig. It's been busy, but it's good. It's good that it's busy in winter. Yeah, just Jordan Descent on Twitter. I'll post probably tomorrow a review of the score and stuff, even though I've said it, but maybe, the targets that I'm looking at next week, and try and attack these last 2 buy rounds. I'm looking for that 20-second primo. So probably a Mills or a Horn Francis.
Don't mind it. So, yes, I was going to ask you about your trades, but there you go. You pretty much said that. But we'll chat to you on Tuesday night anyway, and see how you're going. But thanks for jumping on, mate.
Perfect. Enjoy, guys.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jordy. And me and Jake will hold down the fort for the final sort of 20-25 minutes of the pod reviewing the last games. But Tom Stewart, another 110, Jake. He gets it done again. 16 marks is probably, I only just saw that, probably a little bit under. It's 110. If you take 16 marks, probably should be going 120, 130.
Well, Bailey Williams, 137 with 17 marks. And, Bailey Williams is no Tom Stewart, to put that respectfully.
Yeah. He's been good the last few weeks, Tom Stewart, but even still, I don't know if I could trade back into him now. He's just, again, I think you mentioned it on the HatChat pod early in the year, and that you guys said just not the same role anymore. It's just, he's not the main distributor. He's sort of playing more of a lockdown role. And really, it was just the chip marking that really got him this massive score. Like, he only had, 7 touches outside of the 16 marks that sort of weren't from, so I guess, intercepts or chipping around.
Without having the statistic there, this has to be one of the highest scoring games of the year, I would have thought. Even without the same amount of tons as I've seen, I don't think I've seen another 10 players in the 90s and then another half dozen in the 80s. Like, almost you get to the bottom screen and there's guys in the 60s still. It was an incredibly high scoring game. I think the hard part about this one is both teams are on their bye in round 16. So you're probably not targeting any of these guys this week. There's a few guys you've already mentioned that are obviously on the watch list. Zach Johnson's probably the one, right? Like, you don't bring him in this week, you don't bring him in at all. I mean, there's every chance he's 400K. I was very fortunate to have already had him, so that's nice. But he's the guy that I do wonder, do you bring in just knowing that the week alone will probably net you 100K and maybe an 18th score?
Yeah, I think if you're especially if your team value isn't looking great and it's under 24 million, I think you have to get him. You're just going to miss on too much cash gen because he's going to be in their post buy as well. Like Eston were looking to use him on heap occasions, and I know Eston fans, even that 34 that he scored, were still saying he looked good. Like he's had some good signs and pretty tough game against Brisbane at the Gabba. Hey,
I think he took most of the kick-ins on the weekend.
He took a couple. He took 5. Yeah, 5. Pryor had 4. Nick Martin had a couple. Archie Roberts had 1. So Zach Johnson had 5. So that's just even better. So I think you've probably got to get him in if you don't have him, just because of the amount of cash he's going to make. And he's someone that could count towards your score this week. So, and you're getting him for under 400K still, but not for much longer. Grind Myers 112 again, getting it done. Another good score. Had a quieter start the game, but still got there in the end. Nick Martin ended up turning up. Had a really quiet, like half an hour patch where I reckon he only scored about maybe 10 points, if that. So, but he still got there in the end. Zach Merritt, to his credit, got the Mullen tag the whole game. Still got to a 94. So I think he's someone that if you don't have him post buy with Richmond in round 17, I think he's someone that you're going to be maybe wanting to target at a bit of a cheaper price there. Jackson Pryor with a 95 as well. Jack Martin, probably just a little bit too expensive, but he got a 76 as well there. And then Archer May, he's someone I may even look at. I just need a forward rookie. If there's no one else named, he got a 42. He's not going to be a huge scorer, but I think we're in dire need of a forward rookie. A lot of coaches to cash out some of those Sydney guys if you didn't do it last week. So maybe he's someone to look at. And then Angus Clark played a bit of a key defensive role on Jeremy Cameron at times, which I thought was quite bemusing. But at the end of the day, Eston have got a lot of injuries back there. He only scored the 40. And Jake, I don't know about you, but I don't think there's a more obvious trade than Angus Clark to Tom McCarthy in round 16 for those that don't have
it's pretty clear cut and dry, I would have thought. I'd say Clark hopefully has the one extra week of cash gen. I'd say with that 98 in his price cycle, it's a pretty straight bat, I would have thought. Can I also just say, the Bombers kind of putting some licensing on the name Archer. Obviously, Day Wicks having a debut a few weeks ago. There's a few Archers in the AFL now, and I'm just thinking that Essendon might be seeing something in the woodwork. Just one of those funny ones when you see that theme amongst the team.
Yeah. So now I think we know why they got Zach Reed all those years ago, because they want to bring Archer Reed back over from West Coast to play Essendon. So you get another Archer in there. I like the call. Moving over to the Saturday night game, and North Melbourne getting awfully close to Freo there. Freo by 6 points, but certainly a bit of a scare late in the game. And Jake, I know someone that me and you weren't very keen on a new one on the pod, and then on the HatChat Spaces on Wednesday. Caleb Sarong, 146. I knew this was a good matchup, and I didn't see a tagger for North Melbourne, but I didn't expect a 146 good.
I resent that comment, because I think I made the point that I didn't like how much hate Caleb Sarong was getting, and I think he's a much better option than everyone was saying he was. I'm not going to go out and say I was right. I don't think I was going to attest to him scoring a 146, but it was a low break-even game. He's slowly started to build the last few weeks, and as I said, he hadn't gone sub 90 for the past month. Well, last 4, the most important statistic on the HatChat podcast. He was clearly building into something, but he put up something even I couldn't have anticipated. So well done to Caleb, well done to those that have held him, or to people that jumped on. He was in my early trade plans. I was probably going to lean to Butters if I didn't go the way that I went, but it would have been nice to have made that move this week.
Yeah, and apologies, mate. I wasn't sure if it was you. I couldn't remember. Mate, was DC or some? I know someone else.
It was DC. It's always DC.
Yeah. And I'll admit I wasn't keen on it either. But now it's like one big score, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe I might be able to jump on him. But I still think tags will go to him. But he's obviously a pretty decent option if you're looking at a cheaper mid. Andrew Brayshaw. Just continues to get some really good scores. He's the second best mid on average, and he continues that with another good score. So just gets it done again. Harry Sheasel, deja vu from last year. It's happened again. Everyone, and I include, I didn't trade because I had other issues, which is probably the only positive thing in terms of keeping Shees. But a lot of people moved on. Jordy moved off him. I think Louis did as well. A few people moved off Sheasel, DC, and he's punched out a 131 and looked fantastic. Played a lot more in the midfield. Like his CBA numbers weren't as high. Like he only had 4 CBAs for the game, but it was much more of the extra mid playing as a high half forward right at the ground instead of that deep forward role. So I think he is a target as someone that's already had their bye. So I think you could bring him in. Big X, 93, back-to-back weeks of slightly unders. I know that 111, 93 for most players isn't too bad, but we probably would have thought a little bit of wet weather around. We thought might have racked up those tackles a bit more, but just the 7, only the 13 touches there, 93. He'll be fine, but yeah, just a lower score from him. Jackson with a 92. I still think he's a solid target. Tougher matchup against X, but he got it done again. Colin McKercher, now 85. People probably looking at that and thinking they're probably slightly disappointed with that, but he had 6 points in the second quarter, and he got stuck on the bench, and then when he was on, it just did not go near him at all. So I think he's got the role. I think he's still a really good target. Only had the 2 marks here, probably the weather again playing a slight role in that, but also at the same time, North Melbourne aren't really chipping it around much in their back. But the positive, he had more kick-ins than Caleb Daniel. So maybe he's the number 1 guy back there now. That's
the man I wasn't keen on, Bales. It's Colby, and I'm going to say it again. 27 touches, 24 kicks, and you're still only putting up an 85. I mean, when you put up 72 points in kicks alone, you can only scrape to an 85. They're late. I'm still not keen. Again, if that's all the money you've got, fair enough. But it's the only justification I've got. I haven't seen anything that makes me want to go out and grab him.
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit more optimistic on a McKercher moving forward. I think he's still a pretty good target, but I don't think he's going to be that. I guess some people maybe go, I might average 95, 100. I think he's closer to that 85, 90 mark. But yeah, I think if he cash strapped, he's still a pretty good option there. Caleb Daniel with a 78. Again, the forwards, 78 is actually not that bad in terms of the forwards because all of them putting about these numbers. But he's maybe someone luxury trades. He can trade to another forward if you don't have someone like a Kennedy. But yeah, he'll just sit there for now. If you don't have him, I probably don't know if you're targeting necessarily. I don't think you're going to miss out on too much. Foss put up his equal second highest score of the season with a 56. And if anyone was watching that, missed an awful bloody... He could have kicked a goal. Could have had an extra 9 points, but he absolutely fluffed his line, trying to soccer off the ground and completely missed it. It was a little bit funny, but yeah, he probably should have picked the ball up and tried to kick it through. But 56 isn't awful there. Simpkin 44, we know he's capable of this, but he's got to go. And probably one of the trades that I got wrong, and I think a few people got wrong, Riley Hardiman. I think it's coincided with Colby going back. 41, he hit his break even, which at least is a positive, but I think he can go this week. He's clearly not going to get this role back if they're going to have these other guys back there. So he can go. He's just got no upside anymore. So I think he is a trade. Moving over to the final couple of games on the Sunday. But as always, our podcast this season is sponsored by our good friends at Game Day Squad, and they've released a new competition now, Contender. The first week has just gone, but they've got 5 different competitions across not only AFL, but NRL and other sports where you can win prizes every week. But also, if you've been in there since the start of the season, you can also win some seasonal prizes as well. But if you guys haven't signed up yet, head over to gamedaysquad.com.au and use our code BAILSDT at sign up, and you get yourself 3 9-player compacts valued at $21, absolutely free, just for signing up there. And it is free to play as well. Don't have to spend money on it, but you get 3 packs for free when you start off, plus a heap of other starter packs. So use the code BAILSDT and head over to gamedaysquad.com.au and sign up. But let's move to the Sunday game. So Port Adelaide and Melbourne, with Port getting the job done by 25 points. And obviously we mentioned a bit before, Max Gawn, 126, just getting it done once again. He's just an absolute gun. And yeah, I'm probably, as we said before, I'm probably in the camp of holding him. How about Jordy? Had 11 shots on goal and scored a 124. He was very, very good in this game. Connor Rozee also was very good. Got the, I wouldn't want to call it a Langdon tag per se, but Langdon and Sparrow and Chandler were sort of all keeping an eye on where Rozee was. Just didn't matter. He's just an absolute gun, and he's just one of those guys I think it's a must-have. Horn Francis with a 112. Copped a shoulder sting, apparently. and went off. His first quarter could have been like a 60, 70-point quarter. He had 1 goal, 3, missed a few chances there, but Jake, he's obviously going to drop in price. What are your thoughts on him as an option? Probably going to be closer towards the low 800s.
Yeah, I definitely think he is. I know they're saying it's a stinger. I'd just be keen to see what it comes out with. Obviously, the news. The 11 will be in his price cycle for a little while. So it's one of those that I think teams are probably looking for that last premium. You might be looking for a forward. I don't hate it in any way, shape, or form, but I still think it's okay. He's come off with a bit of a knock again. It just gives me that little bit of extra concern. So, I guess the question I would say is, do you feel comfortable moving a Rankin or a Petrarca on their buy to him? And I don't know. I don't know that there's enough upside. I think we all thought there was. We saw a few of the weeks earlier in the year, Bales. I know there's some great clips of you out there. Jason Horn Francis on Thursday or Friday night watch-alongs. So I think you can attest to it as much as anyone else, how much of a frustrating watch that can be when he's not on.
Yeah, I know the Warn Dog's been using the hard watch term, but Horn Francis at times can be an amazing watch, but he can also be a very hard watch, the hardest of hard watches at times. So, but yeah, I think he'll be an option. He'll get cheap, but yeah, I'm probably waiting another week just to see how this comes back in terms of his injury. I think he'll be fine, but just interesting to see. Miles Bergman, again, another 102. Been really happy with the last couple of weeks after bringing him in. Again, had a fair few CBAs, had 14s. That was behind only Butters, Wines, and Drew, but it was sort of pretty evenly spread between Drew, Wines, Butters, Bergman, and then Rosie had 5, all, I believe, in the last quarter. So, and Horn Francis only had the 2 CBAs. So, yeah, Bergman, at least in the short term, is still an option. I wouldn't be trading him in now. I think you've missed the two big hundreds. He's going to be over 800K. He's not going to be a top 6 defender, I wouldn't think. So I think you've probably missed the boat and you're probably looking at someone else. Clayton Oliver, 97. If you've still got Clayton Oliver, which I think Guesty's still got him, and I think Mitch has got him there. So 97, you'll take that. But on the buy this week, I think it's a pretty easy trade to trade him out and bring in one of those midfielders that's dropped a little bit in price, which could be Zach Butters. So he scored 97. So, Jake, what are your thoughts on him? He's now got Sydney Carlton, so it's probably Jordan into Chincotta. Do you think you'd be fine trading in Butters even with the tags, or you may want to wait another week or two? He's probably going to drop slightly because his break-even's 120. What do you think with Butters?
Yeah, I'm pretty well on the fence here. If I'm starting to look at the players around the price, it's hard without seeing the price movements of this week. Obviously, Sarong, you said about grabbing someone cheap, but he's going to be pushing $1 million after that game because the last of his poor scores dropped out and a 146 pumps in. And then you start looking at other guys around the price, and there's not too many that excite me. I've had Real for a few weeks. He's going at 120 odd, but I don't expect that to continue. And everyone else at that price point doesn't exactly scream value. So for all of those reasons, I think I'm okay, but I certainly, to the point we made before, he's not someone that goes, you have to grab him this week. Like, if the price works, I think he's still cheap enough to do it. If it doesn't, wait another week and see if it works the week after. That's probably my approach anyway. Yeah,
I agree. I might look at it in this week just because I'm looking at probably bringing in a midfield or two, but those tags do slightly concern me just with those couple. But the way Rosie's playing, I could see Chincotta just playing a defensive forward role on Rosie in that game. And even Jordan might go to Rosie there. And I think Jordan went to Rosie when they played last time, if I'm not mistaken. So Butters might actually be okay. So he's someone I'm still looking at. And he's even shown, take by Viney today, still got to a 97. Just finds a way. He's in the mold of the Dacos and even I'll put McKercher in that same boat that they'll kick it to someone, they'll run quickly behind for the handball and they'll get it back. Goulden in the same boat. They're just in that mold there of those. And I'm only using McKercher. He's probably not the same mold, probably Dacos. I could see your face went like that when I said that. But
the big four of the competition: Errol Goulden, Nick Dacos, Zach Butters, and Colby McKercher.
Yeah,
one day,
Sam Taylor.
One day.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't mind him as an option. Chris Petrarca, 81. He's on buy. I don't think you're trading. I think he's got more upside than some of these other forwards. To be fair, like I did say before, he's only had a higher score of 104 in his last 6. He's had 92 against Hawthorn, 84 against Brisbane. The 104 was against Sydney, 75 against St Kilda, 89 against Collingwood, 81 against Port Adelaide. There's not too many tougher runs that than that over the last 6 weeks. Sydney a bit easier, but the other ones. But he now goes into Gold Coast, Adelaide, North Melbourne, Carlton, St Kilda, West Coast. So that's a really nice run by Carlton. There's no way I'm trading Petrarca on his buy. So I think he is a hold. Going down this of other scorers. Langford scored a 50. He's been a good rookie, but it's time to go. He's been great for anyone that jumped on him in rounds 2 or 3, 4. And he's made some good cash, but you can cash him out. I thought Manny Liddy actually looked all right, scored 42. I kept thinking it was Horn France every now and again, but then I saw legs, so I'm like, no, that's Liddy. So I thought he looked all right, 42. He's probably a sub risk. Obviously, Hugh Jackson was a sub this week. I think he's a rookie downgrade potentially if you need one this week in the midfield. But if you don't have Johnson, then I'd be going there still. And I think a lot of people are still looking for a forward rookie, so maybe might not be as popular. And then Lindsay scored 24. He was obviously the starting sub, which is unfortunate. Did you have Lindsay still? I saw him in the team before, but I don't know if you traded him out.
Nope, same thing as Levi Ashcroft. I had Lindsay going out. Then with other names, other players not being named, I was like, do I have 21 or do I keep Lindsay and roll into 22? So my initial trades of the week had both Levi and Lindsay out with a 300k Warren chest for next week, and my final team has them both in the side. So I've lost 100k between them. Pretty salty about it. Otherwise, the team is humming along nicely, but I'm hoping both of them get out of my side this week without any questions being asked.
Yeah. Moving over to the final game, which was West Coast and Carlton. Carlton with winning by 34 points, and fair to say, pretty dour game to finish off the round, unfortunately. Not much fantasy stuff going on. I know a few guys got there in the end. Adam Chera, which he's a good player, but geez, I've hated watching him this year. He was someone I wanted to start. I went Hollands over him. Who I hate watching now just as much because he doesn't pass to Doherty every time he's got the ball and just kicks it long. But he's been an amazing pick for anyone that's gone him. I think he's a shout as a top 8 midfielder with the lack of those guys at the bottom end of the midfielders. I think he's right there. And if you've got him, you're certainly enjoying watching him there. So he's been fantastic. Tyrell Dewar, though, 115. If you picked him up off the waivers in draft, you'd be very, very happy with that score because he's been playing a bit more of that half-back role, getting it done again. TDK 109. Probably the weather meant probably not as big a score as what he could have done, but against the Eagles, he was always going to ton up. You would have thought a good score there. George Hewitt with a 105. How about that? 35 touches, 27 handballs. So
the old George Hewitt things, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But another ton, he's maybe started another mini ton run for him. So with Walsh out, maybe he is an option a bit cheaper that you could look towards. But Tom McCarthy, Jake, 101. I don't know if you had this stat on the game. West Coast had not had a player go over 30 touches, and their first gamer from the mid-season draft comes in and has 31 disposals and also had 10 kick-ins, which I know helps, but still we don't care about commentators complaining about kicking shouldn't count as stats. We go, they should count as stats, and when they don't go to the square, that should count as well because they still kick the ball. But 101, I think the question for people is going to be, if you don't have him, can you bring him in this week if you've got like 22 players?
Oh, it's this weird thing, right? I always bring this back to Ned Reeves 2-3 years ago. People brought him in on the bye because he was a certainty to play after the bye and got injured in the warm-ups, and then you brought him in and he never played for you. It scares me. I'd rather just wait the week. If you have to, I'm not in doubt. He's going to be playing. Unless something catastrophic happens, he's going to be playing. He's going to be scoring well. You're going to want him. It's just, can you bring him in when he's on his bye? And I just avoid it at all costs. That's my standard. I really don't want to deviate from that unless I have to.
Yeah, I'm still the same as well. I'm still look for a downgrade this week because it gives you that downgrade for the week after. Because the thing is there going to be a downgrade the week after if you bring a bit? We don't know. So I think if you've got one this week, like Will Hayes, for example, from Collingwood, if he plays this week, I think he's a downgrade in the forward line. You've got like your Archer May. You've got Cole. They're not going to be great scorers, but you downgrade them. You get McCarthy in the week after. And I think he is a solid target
as you
when he's off the bye.
It's straight for Angus Clark. Give him one more week, make another 25k for you, and then you don't lose anything. McCarthy, get ready to make 100k off of him the following week.
Yeah, I guess I'm tempted because I've got Hardiman there, so I'm tempted to go Hardiman McCarthy, just get it done. But I need the forward rookie anyway. So Hardeman to a forward rookie is already going to be done for me. And then, pretty much besides that, the rest of the players, again, you were talking about that, the Essendon Geelong game being so high scoring, even the Thursday night game. But this one, besides that, so many people below 80. So like an Ollie Hollands was there at 74. Ollie Lord, sorry, not Ollie Lord, he plays for Port Adelaide. Cooper Lord, 71. He saved that score as well. He was, I think, sub 40 at three-quarter time. Had a big last quarter, a lot of tackles in there. But again, 71, pretty solid F6, making a bit of cash there. Doherty, 71 as well. Slightly unders, but again, this wasn't really a game for Doherty. They weren't really chipping around. And I don't know if you saw this, Jake. I think it's the third quarter. Carlton looked to switch it like 3 times. And Doherty was open, and they just said no. So like it was like back to Weeder in the back pocket. He was going to switch to Doherty. He went back to someone on the back flank. They went back to Wiedering, and Wiedering looked over at Doherty again and said, "I'm not going to go to you," and went back. So there was a couple of +6s there, absolutely waiting for him. But I think he'd be fine, just not really a game. We know West Coast Optus aren't great for defenders scoring against them, and the conditions had a bit of a role there. Matt Carroll, 67. That would have been good last week, mate, after I traded you this week. So thanks for that. Paddy Cripps, that's unfortunate if you jump there. That's back-to-back sub-70s for him. Another bad score. Would have thought against West Coast he would have gone well, but not a great one from him. Marek with a 60. If you've still got him, it's time to go for him. McCarthy's obviously taken that role, and he's had a different role. Bo Allen could be another downgrade option post-buy. 52, looked a bit better today, but he's obviously not a huge scorer, but just an option to consider there. And condolences to those people that went Charlie Curnow. Subbed out on 25. Calf awareness is what they're calling. I don't know why they call it awareness. Just call calf tightness. Like awareness, it's just a weird word to use for it. But calf tightness in the second quarter and subbed out. And I actually like the play against West Coast into North Melbourne. I think then they got, I don't know who they play after that, but they got a pretty nice sort of month or so. But unfortunately, he was out injured. He's now going to have to be potentially a trade because it's then just move over to another forward because we don't know if he's going to miss any time or not. He said he's fine, but he said he hasn't done a soft tissue injury before. So we'll have to see exactly how that comes out of. But that wraps up the games. But just before we wrap...
Can I give three, can I give 3 very quick shout-outs for the wrong reasons? I don't know if anyone's seen the bottom end of that game, but Tim Kelly with a 20 on 80% time on ground.
I did not see that.
Horrific. He's going to be almost 500k in 2 weeks, which is an incredible fall from grace. And someone who never had a grace to fall from, Harry Edwards with 75% time on ground, -9 meters gained. He had negative meters gained in the game, and he scored 1 fantasy point for a full game of football. And even Jaiden Hunt, 2 points subbed in the third quarter. Just atrocious fall from grace from someone who was a cracking pick last year. So just a really interesting one looking at the bottom end of that. Probably attests to how quick the cookie crumbles in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Like Clay Hall came on, what was it, in the third quarter or last quarter, and he scored 29 points and completely obliterated those other scores. So, I didn't see that. 20 points in Tim Kelly. Geez, I wonder what his career would have looked like if he stayed in Geelong. I wonder what it would have looked like, but we'll never know. Before we wrap up, we'll just quickly go over the 4 teams come off the bye in Collingwood, Gold Coast, Richmond, Sydney, and go through a couple of targets we're looking at. So we'll start off with Collingwood. Jake, I would have been sitting here normally and said Nick Dacos thinks a good target. I don't know if he is anymore because he's got St Kilda and Marcus Windhager will probably go, well, without a shadow of a doubt, I think he's going to him next week. But maybe his brother, Josh Dacos, against St Kilda, who are good for defenders. He's got a pretty nice run for the remainder of the year. What do you think about, well, the Dacos boys in general, but obviously Josh Dacos more so, I think, as a target this week?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there. I do like the Nick Dacos play is something I've been looking at, but you're right. Is this the week to do it? Maybe, maybe not. I still think there's a week. Yeah, I still think there's a play there, even if you cop a slight concern this week. But Josh, on the other hand, absolutely looks like he could be ripe for the picking. Ed Long, who knows? I held through. I wouldn't be trading into him, but I'm certainly hopeful that we still see a bit of an uptick coming out of the bye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, Ned Long was my captain this week, so I was pretty happy putting the armband on him, even though he had the week off. But Nick Dacos, he's St Kilda. I don't love with Windhager, but averages 123.7 against West Coast in his 3 games, and he's got them at Marvel. So I think that that's the week to bring him in. So I think that, this week you leave it, and then the week after. But then he goes Chincotta the week after. Then he goes into Gold Coast, which is a great matchup. And then he finishes with like Freo, Richmond, Brisbane, who won't tag. So pretty nice run coming up for Nick Dacos after this week. Anyone else? I don't think there's really much else from Collingwood. Will Hayes maybe a downgrade option, but anyone else from Collingwood that you can shake the head there?
No, to be entirely honest, there's probably not too many from any of these teams. I think there's an obvious one. We've all talked to, if we lead into Sydney and Callum Mills, I think that's the one that most people will be looking at this week without a shadow of a doubt. But I'd say almost no forwards from these teams, maybe a Chad Warner. Richmond, certainly not particularly fantasy relevant, and Gold Coast.
Jump on the Toronto.
No, and Gold Coast, I mean, again, I was very fortunate with the Rao pick, but I'm still not sold on jumping into them either. So I don't know if there's anyone that...
I like Noah Anderson, who's obviously Jordy. I know that is definitely Jordy's boy, because he messages me every time Gold Coast play and just messages me Nando's. And it made me, and I just want to go out and get some Nando's for dinner or lunch or whenever he messages me. But I think he's a decent target. He got the 60 against Geelong, got them the was it O'Connor that went to him that game, I think, and he got that massive hit from Tom Stewart. But he now actually he's got Bedford this week, so that's probably the only thing there. But then he's got maybe a Melbourne tag, so maybe not Anderson for the next couple of weeks. I was thinking maybe,
he's pulled very quickly. Yeah, I can see why people wouldn't mind the idea. I don't know. He's not screaming. I think at a cheaper price, I'd still probably prefer to go Butters personally.
Yeah. And then, I think Mills, is, as you said, is probably the one. I think he's a good target in terms of he's cheap. I'm going to be interested to see what happens this week, because this week for Sydney is going to be good, because we're going to have another premium mid-target in the next month to 6 weeks come back. And it's a lot of our favourites. Errol Goulden is going to be back. Sydney have already said that he's going to be very likely back this week, along with Tom Papley. And I know, Jacob, in a keeper league with you, with a heap of other fellow podcasters that in it, and I think took over Stato's team started in. He had Errol Goulden as his number one player, and I haven't had him all year, so it's going to be good to plug him back in there. But I think Errol Goulden's someone to just keep an eye on. He's so expensive, but he's going to drop, and you'd think, but he'll be someone we'll look at. But Callum Mills, what do you think? Because like Matt Roberts will be back, Goulden will be back, so it's like, was Mills only in defence because of Matt Roberts not there? Does he play in defence? Like, where do you see his role sitting, and what do you think about him as a target?
I think quite blatantly, I'm going to put it as I don't care. I mean, obviously it matters, but he's the captain. He's the captain of their footy club. He's priced in the mid-70s. I'm okay with it. As a mid, we know he can average in the 90s. As a defender, we know he can average in the 90s. As I said to DC, I never thought he was going to be a smash pick, but at the price point, coming off his bye, I think he's a safe guy to get your last rookie off field. I just don't. The risk is the injury. We know he's had times where the role has been slightly less fruitful, but I don't mind whichever he plays. I still think he should be an 80s guy at a minimum. And if he's got 10 points built in with the chance of a ceiling, I'm happy to just play the safe bet there.
Yeah. I'm keen on it as well, just because I've got to get that last rookie off, and he's the obvious one that I go 2 rookies down, like a Hardiman and someone else down, and go maybe someone like a Finn O'Sullivan up to a Mills, right? That'll get it done. So that's something that I'm looking at there. And I actually think he does play more in the midfield. I think it was because Matt Roberts wasn't there, and he played against Richmond, didn't have to really go in the mids, but Sydney have been crying out for a midfielder like him all year in that mids. The captain of the club, pre-season, he was going to play as a mid. He's had a few games in the AFL, and then obviously had a game or two in the VFL as well to really warm up. And Roberts will be back. I think Bice even played on a wing, whether he stays there or goes back there. Like they'll get Amadi.
There's 4 or 5 big names kind of coming back.
Yeah, Amadi will be back.
What the side looks like.
Amadi, Goulden, Papley, Matt Roberts, and then Robbie Fox as well. And he's another guy that might play defence, right? So I think he's a good option, and someone that you can get that last rookie off and look to upgrade post the buys. Anyone else, Jake? Obviously, we touched on those, but is there anyone else that you're looking at from, I guess, any other teams?
Nope, I think that surmises that they're realistically the only couple I kind of have high on the list of the Dacos boys, and Callum Mills. I just forgot his name after talking about him for 5 minutes. There's no one else that is particularly enticing for mine, but I'm sure those playing along at home might throw a name out there we haven't necessarily thought of, and I'm certainly keen to hear it.
Yeah, I still think McKerch is still a decent target. At still going to be sub 660k. I would imagine. He goes Carlton at the MCG, Hawthorn at UTAS, Doggies at Marvel. So not what you'd say great run, but I still think if he's got those kick-ins, he's got that a higher floor there. He's not going to be a 120, 130 like in terms of scoring those big scores, but I think he's a 85 to 105 most weeks. So I think he's someone that I'd be happy to jump into there, even if it was to get him and then watch Mills for 1 week and then jump on Mills a week after. But with Mills is 110, I think his break even is sitting pretty low. They're 763k break in to 66. So I think he is an option. What they got: Port Adelaide, Dogs, Freo, St Kilda, North Melbourne. So not awful there as well. And then obviously Johnson, and he's probably the rookie guy. If you don't have him, I think he's someone that I'd like to jump onto. But that will wrap us up because we've gone for an hour and 5 minutes. So apologies if we didn't answer any of the listener questions. I'm hoping that discussion we did answer a few there, but we obviously will be back in about 48 hours time for our Tuesday night Q&A as always, and we'll answer all your questions there. But if you do want a guaranteed answer in the meantime or want a team review, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Every Patreon member gets a team review every week, and you get the exclusive Q&A on the Wednesdays, bonus content. If you just want to help spice a little bit extra there, you can head over to our Patreon. Link is in the description of the video or the podcast. But Jake, just before we wrap up, we always do this. I'm sure you haven't had much time to think about it, but any ideas of what maybe your trades or at least trade outs looking like and guys you might be bringing in?
No, I've actually got a pretty rough idea. I just don't have exact cash, obviously, without lockout. But my plan will be that the Levi Lindsay show that has played for far too long will both be moving on. Both of them to people that I think could potentially be premiums. And I think there's every chance with a bit of cash in the bank that I might be able to do Mills. I don't think I'll get to Josh Dacos, but my hope was going to be like a Mills Josh Dacos type. And then the other end of the trade would just be a Foss down. I don't think you have to trade Foss this week, but I think if I want the cash to get all the way up, that I'll probably have to use the cash that's on his head. So if I can do that, I'll be stoked. I think that'll be 2 genuine rookies off my field upgraded. And then I'm just going to be running Zach Johnson as number 22 at the moment, which I don't have any concerns about. So, yeah, in a perfect world, it's Mills, Dacos, and a rook for Foss, Lindsay, and Lashcroft. But we'll see if I've got the cash to do that. Otherwise, I'll be playing in that 800k range, and I'll have to see who I can snafu at that price.
Yeah. The trade locked in for me is Hardiman will go to a forward rookie, whichever one. If that's Archer May, if it's a Will Hayes, if he's named, someone like that, that has to happen because I've got obviously the extra forward. So I'll just put Baz into the mids for the time being and have that other forward there. The other 2 trades I'm still tossing up. I could go a Boxall down and a Foss up to a Callum Mills and get that. That would be my last rookie off the field, which I'm surprised I've been able to get all the rookies off field. But that does mean I've got a lot of the McKerches, the Bergmans, the Dohertys, the Caleb Daniels, Boltons, guys I want to move on eventually. So I'm thinking, well, is this maybe a week where I go Hardiman down and move on a couple of those guys and maybe go and getting a couple of guys I'm a bit more sort of feeling more solid about them. So probably looking at those 2, but at this stage it would be the Callum Mills, just get the final rookie off the field and we'll go from there. So that's currently what we're thinking. But obviously lockout hasn't lifted, which I'm surprised. I thought it would have been lifted already, but I'm sure it will be very, very soon. But thank you everyone for tuning in live as always and sent through their questions. And if you are tuning in on the podcast, we are live after the final game every round and it'll be every Sunday night. No more Monday games for the remainder of the season. So every Sunday night we're live. Come join us live there or live on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Perth time for a Q&A, or Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Perth time for our pre-lockout chat on the Friday. But Jake, mate, thank you for jumping on. Good to get you on at some point this season. I was thinking, we're going to get him on, but we did. So it was good to get you on, mate. But where can people find you across the socials, and where can people get the HatChat podcast into their earbuds and listen to that?
Thank you, mate. Yeah, of course. You can find me at Dunkley's Donuts, albeit incredibly not unavailable this year, but certainly not around abouts as much as I would like. Life gets in the way of all the fun that we get to have doing these shows. Sometimes bails, but of course, if you chat us on there, I do try to reply when I do jump on. Alternatively, just get your questions straight into HatChat AFL at HatChat AFL. That is on all of the socials. We'll be recording Monday night as always. Wednesday night spaces as well. Nathan's flying. DC's had an absolute stinker. So if you like to see a non-smug DC, it's the perfect week for you to tune in. And we'll hopefully get to answer a whole heap of questions this time around.
Yeah. No, thank you for jumping on, mate. And I'm assuming I'll chat to you on Wednesday because I've been on most of that. Well, I think I haven't missed one this year.
I think you're doing more than me. You've done more than me, mate. So thank you very much. As always, we always appreciate you and the listeners for jumping in as well.
It's always good fun. You can find me at BAILSDT and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans across the socials. As I said, we're back on Tuesday night with, I'm sure that the whole game, I'm sure Guesty will be on, Jordox will be on, see how they went this weekend, and Jordy will be back on chatting through all your questions. And I'll be back tomorrow for my round review. But I think most people know, going shit. I'm still ranked just inside 10K, but not great. So I'm just wondering when that top 1,000, top 2,000 week. I've been wondering when's it going to come. Now I've moved from when to if. Like, is it going to come? Like, I'm asking the question, like, if it'll come. I don't think it will, but we'll see. We'll keep going week to week and see if we can smash out a good score. But we do have well over 250 people watching, so appreciate everyone tuning in on the Sunday night. But make sure you guys do smash like on the video. Let's try and get 100 on the video. That'd be fantastic. And we are 50 subscribers away from 4,000. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We're near that big goal of ours. So if you haven't subscribed, smash us, subscribe, and that'll be fantastic. And if you're listening back on the pod, please give us a 5-star rating and review. That'll be very, very much appreciated. So thank you, everyone. Hope you guys had a good weekend, and we'll catch you guys on Tuesday night for our Q&A. So thanks, everyone. Have a good night. See ya.